If you don't know Jurassic Park,
you don't know shit.
So there's a lot of movies that come out of independent film festivals such as Sundance, and one of them was Swiss Army Man.
Yeah, usually some of them will come out with, critics going crazy or critics absolutely panning or a 50-50, but one of the ones that definitely got a lot of talk coming out of Sundance was Swiss Army Man.
Yes.
Farting corpse movie, essentially.
Is basically what they called it.
Absolutely. And it was directed by a couple of really relatively unknowns that were making a movie that just was unlike anything you have ever seen.
Yes.
Even on the poster, I believe it says a movie unlike what you've ever seen before. Either way, it's something that stuck around with people, and that was months and months ago.
Yeah, it was, and it just came around being shown in theaters. And we finally got to see it, and I would say it blew my mind.
Yeah, typically movies of that level of independence doesn't make it to Tucson.
No.
But this one did, and we were blown away.
It was something that I've never seen, and I tend to, in the mash of all these reboots and rehashes and sequels, that we wanted to see something that was original and that was a different take on something that has never been technically done before. I mean, I guess you could say Weekend at Bernie's, but no, this movie was very unique, and that was one of the things that I loved about it.
Yeah, Daniel Radcliffe as a dead corpse, I mean, it did kind of hit me as Weekend at Bernie's right off the bat. Except that was slapstick funny. This was going more for heartfelt and amazing.
With a little comedy in it.
Absolutely. Paul Dano broke out for me during Little Miss Sunshine. I mean, he's been in many other movies like There Will Be Blood and Ruby Sparks, where he's kind of shined through. But
yeah, and recently he's been on that TV series short thing called War and Peace, and that one's interesting too.
And he's getting, everywhere he goes, he gets high remarks. Everybody pretty much knows Paul Dano.
Love and Mercy too, that one.
Absolutely. But Daniel Radcliffe with us, however, just never really shook that Harry Potter aura.
Yeah, I mean, I did see, Horns. I did see that movie.
But people enjoyed it. People really enjoyed Horns.
Yes.
However, it never really did hit a full release. A lot of people were watching it after the fact.
Yeah, I watched it on Netflix. That's how I got to it. I mean, I did want to see it originally, but I never got around to getting to it because we don't really get those type of movies here. But when I finally did watch it, I was like, okay. But this one, Swiss Army Man, he nailed it out of the park. He did it. It was like he wasn't Harry Potter. He was Manny.
Absolutely. Now when I see Daniel Radcliffe, I'm going to instantly think of Manny. I fell in love with Manny. Manny was incredibly innocent.
Yes.
Just deep down what human nature is. Just inquisitive, childlike, just complete, clean slate.
Yep.
And he did an amazing job with, there was just something about the way he talked as well. It just seemed really genuine coming from Manny when he eventually started talking. And the fact that he held a dead body pose the entire time and pulled it off. So much emotion came out of him at a very primal level. It was just instinctual, the movements that he made as Manny.
Yeah, and the relationship that that Manny and Hank have in this movie is great, and I think that Paul Dano and Danny Radcliffe did a wonderful job together in this movie, and they really connected very well.
Complement each other.
Yes.
On all levels. And it's great that Daniel Radcliffe can actually get somebody at Paul Dano's level, because a lot of people are coming out and saying that have seen this movie and that appreciate it at the level we do, that Daniel Radcliffe deserves the Oscar. Daniel Radcliffe deserves some sort of recognition for his role as Manny. And when Daniel Radcliffe is the one coming out above Paul Dano in a movie, and you already know Paul Dano's up here and Radcliffe is up here, that's saying something about your performance when Paul Dano's great, but you nailed it out of the park a little higher than Paul Dano.
Yes.
So that speaks very highly for the level of quality put into these characters. This love story, it really does become a love story, and they hint at that a little bit in the montage.
Yeah, but it's not
but
like the love story that you would think.
No,
So
it's
great. It's like an underlining thing that you wish would flourish throughout the movie. You're like, and it has so much emotion. Like he said, for a dead person, he has so much emotion. That emotion resonates and comes off the screen with us too, and we feel the same way that he feels when the whole story is
playing out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead has such a huge imprint in this movie as well as
she
Sarah.
does.
And yet she's not even in the movie until the very end, but the imprint that she has on them, just recreating the interactions or the longing love that he never had with Sarah, the girl on the bus. I mean, that whole journey for them trying to talk to her. I mean, that's really what they spent their entire time, was being able to just not be alone, being able to rise above the weirdness, the awkwardness, and the shyness that this main character of Hank has, and it just, he really kind of wakens up to the questions that Manny has for him. It really brings him out of just what we do is put on these blinders in life, and for some reason the questions that Manny gives Hank just shake him out of apathy, essentially, to just live, to want to live, to want to be, somebody more than just a suicidal guy and the dead guy. They want to just live, and if it's just by themselves together, they're living together. And it's great. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Sarah, that imprint that she has, is something I think we all have felt in our life that helps us just become more than what we are.
Yeah.
And even though she doesn't end up with them, and even the final words of the movie, what the fuck? Like, obviously she doesn't stand behind their weirdness and what's going on, but she was the catalyst. She was the reason for it, that they got to this level.
Yeah, I mean, the Daniels.
The Daniels.
Because they're both Daniels. I remember watching like an interview, and they said that they just picked a topic and they kind of flew from there, and that topic was just someone riding on the back of a corpse, and then they went off on that, and it was just very, like, amazing.
Simplistic?
Yeah,
it was very
simple.
Simplistic. And I mean, they came from a music video background. I mean, they've made a whole slew of music videos that are considered just different, weird, creative.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen the Turn Down for What video, they did that video, so you kind of know the way that they, like, their mind works a little bit. Like, if you read it on paper, you'd be like, oh, well, that doesn't kind of work, that's kind of weird. But then when you actually see it on screen and it flourishes, then you'll be like, oh, well, now I do see that it does work, and it's great.
And it really makes me happy that, like, the production company A24, I mean, they've been just killing it when it comes to their indie movies as well. And they're picking artists that are able to bring these movies and just give them a different spin. Ex Machina, The Witch.
The Room is a good one.
The Room. I mean, The Room just made just Oscar winners all over the place. I mean, they're always aiming for the top, A24. Especially, we saw a preview for Free Fire.
Oh, yeah.
Charlton Copley and Cillian Murphy.
They're doing that one too,
good.
And I really want to see it. And that one, like, we can probably talk about that one later. Well, maybe you guys will see a video of that one come up soon. But that one, I do want to see. So, I mean, I haven't seen the trailers, but I've seen, like, the concept of it, and it's kind of interesting. So,
like a bottle episode gunfight. But either way, that's stuff that A24 goes for. Something that's just a little bit different on its head. And it works. I mean, bringing in the Daniels to do this, and then the Daniels in turn bringing in, kind of like what Oblivion did with
M83.
M83, Anthony Gonzalez. Yeah, you brought in this musically inclined artist, that isn't in film or compositions of that nature, but brings them in and adds their own spin. And they brought in Manchester Orchestra, essentially, to make this movie.
Yeah, Andy Hall and Robert McDowell, they came in and created a new character, essentially. Like, the music itself is a character, and it's unique, and I love the way that they the way that they start the music in the movies, where the actors and the characters in the movie start doing like the a cappella, and then it starts from there that the music starts. And that was one of the things that really caught my attention at the very beginning, where he's standing there and he's about to like hang himself, and then he's like, wait a minute, this corpse is like about, and he goes and he starts like, you're like, what is he doing? He starts to sing, essentially, and then it rolls into the song that opens the movie, and I'm just like,
layers too,
wow,
and layers.
yeah.
He gives you a little bit of the music, and then adds the next layer and layer on top of it, and becomes huge.
As soon as that started and as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, this movie's gonna be awesome, because the way that they did that was like never before. Like, I've never seen that happen in a movie before, and it was like, okay, this is cool. Let's see what else you guys can do.
Absolutely, and music definitely shapes the tone of a movie. Even a movie that may not be as original, like Oblivion, was not the most original movie. I mean, it was an amalgamation of a lot of different sci-fi elements, from like Soylent Green to Wall-E, all mixed into one. But one thing that was just original on its own was the music that they had as a backdrop to that movie. Mm-hmm. Not only is the music in Swiss Army Man a backdrop to it, like she said, it's a character, it's a part of it. On every level, this music is just locked into place. It's a part of the movie as much as these guys are.
Yes. And I've said it before with music and scores of movies, that the music and the score has to connect with the movie in order for me to really enjoy. Granted, the movie could suck, but the music could be amazing, and that's what it would help make the movie great. And then in this case, this movie was great, and then bringing the music in it, and it made this movie like amazing.
Building up to the next shining moment of this movie was the practical effects.
Oh yeah.
Going through the practical effects in this movie, these guys, you could tell they wanted to get real with this movie. Went into the Pacific Northwest and shot in a forest with a bunch of their friends, and smacking Daniel Radcliffe with branches and trees, and using real bears, during filming to get an actual reaction from these actors. But the mix of practical effects and CG effects is also something that many movies will be more successful in our eyes.
Yes.
Just in terms of, we feel it more, we love it more, like Mad Max. When you take practical effects and the CG and mix them all together, and they really kind of are a duet.
Yeah, I mean, you can't technically have one without the other.
You shouldn't have one without the other.
Yeah, I mean, you could do one with all practical effects, and that's fine.
And
there's a lot of movies that have CGI that's all it is, and some of them are fine, but other ones you can tell it's really the mixture between the two that combines and makes it a perfect unity of a movie, is when you have that perfect amount of practical effects with the perfect amount of CGI together. It creates this wonderful
world that we were in. I mean, seeing that bus that they created and their little habitat that they built, and having the party and drinking and dancing with all the different characters.
Those scenes in the movie were probably one of my favorites, when he created the Sarah costume, and when he created the bus that he was on, and then when he was rolling and doing the thing with the pictures for Manny, and he was just looking outside, and he had the erasers as earplugs and headphones. It was amazing, and it kind of felt like when I was a little kid, where you wanted to be in this kind of world of just imagination, but yet have these kind of set pieces to go along with it, and I really enjoyed that.
The ultimate level of make-believe, and that's kind of why this movie resonated with us so much, is we were in it. Absolutely. And I thought I had the ending pegged. I thought I had it figured out. I thought he was going to be on the island the entire time, and he mentions when he's hanging there and then, talks to Manny for the first time, that he expected life to flash before his eyes, parties and dancing and just all these great things, and nothing happened. He didn't see anything. So I thought everything that was happening with Manny would have been that flashing before his eyes, and then he would have died. But no, they just 180 and went a different way with it.
Me too. I thought it was going to be something different. I thought that Manny was kind of something that wasn't actually really there. Like they were gonna cut to scenes where he's actually just talking to himself, and Manny's not really
like Tyler
there,
Durden in
at
Fight
all.
Club.
Yeah, like it's not he's not really there at all. But they did kind of go a different way, and I like the way that they went instead.
I know, Manny's real and he's living on, he's moving on. It's kind of like Elliot in Pete's Dragon.
Yeah.
He saved him and now he's off to go save somebody else. But Swiss Army Man really, really did an amazing job on all levels. So for me, I'm gonna have to give it, I was at like a 4.5, maybe a 4, but then the fact that it resonated with me for such a long time, I've listened to the soundtrack over and over in constant loop, and then seen the movie already a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 5 for me,
Yep.
for sure.
Me too. 5 out of 5. This movie will definitely be one that I will get from my collection when it comes out on DVD or on Blu-ray. So it's just very unique, and I can't stop thinking about it. And after the movie finished, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and right away I really wanted to go and buy another ticket so I could watch it again.
And couldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Everything we just told you, we've had this conversation multiple times. And when something is just that powerful and resonate, I haven't felt this way since like Little Miss Sunshine. I mean, to me, Little Miss Sunshine and Paul Dano freaking out and going crazy in the car brought so much emotion to me, and that music, the score, the cinematography, all together just made me really happy, and that's how I felt.
You can really
watching
tell
this.
how much they put into this movie, and I remember also hearing about how like a lot of the things that were in this movie that one of the Daniels did not like he doesn't like farting jokes, and he didn't like acapella, and it was very interesting to hear that, and you're like, wow, somebody who doesn't really like this stuff really put a lot of effort to make those parts of the movie
the best
parts of the movies. Essentially, it kind of shows like, well, you know, that he really likes what he's doing, and he really wants to put the effort into doing something to make something for people
that he would like.
Yeah.
And we did. So check out Swiss Army Man if you haven't, and you're watching this. And if you are, you already know. And if you didn't like it, it just didn't hit with you like it hit with us and many other people. And what's great, this is a movie that will never get a sequel and should never get a sequel. It's just its own entity.
Yes.
And it's amazing.
So thanks guys for watching our review to Swiss Army Man.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. There are a lot of people in love with this movie, and there's a lot of people that do not like this movie. But go to our social networking sites like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Talk to us about it, because there's a lot of people talking about how great or awful this movie was.
Yeah, let us know what your perspective of the movie was, because there's a lot of those out there too, and we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. So until the next time, now it's time to say goodbye. Bye.
Why do these things always happen to me?